The most prestigious culinary award in the world was announced on a Tuesday morning while I was in a boardroom finalizing the acquisition of a failing restaurant chain. Chef Antoine Mercier had once again been named world's most innovative chef for his revolutionary Paris restaurant Alchemie. As the executives around me debated depreciation schedules, my phone discreetly buzzed with congratulatory messages that none of them could know were meant for me. My name is Deanna Park, and to the financial world, I'm the ruthless CEO of Pinnacle Hospitality Group, a $3 billion restaurant investment firm that has never made a bad acquisition. But to the culinary world, or at least the 7 people aware of my secret, I'm Antoine Mercier, the reclusive, mysterious chef whose molecular gastronomy techniques have redefined modern cuisine. For 6 years, I've lived this double life, creating dishes that earn Michelin stars by night while engineering corporate takeovers by day. No photographs of Chef Mercier exist. No interviews. No public appearances. Just the food, always the food, speaking for itself. The irony was particularly sharp that morning because Pinnacle's board had just approved my proposal to acquire Le Jardin, a struggling Parisian restaurant located precisely 3 blocks from Alchemie. In 12 hours, I would be signing papers to purchase a direct competitor of my alter ego's establishment. Deanna, these projected margins seem optimistic, remarked Walter Chin, Pinnacle's CFO, sliding the report across the glossy table. Le Jardin has been losing market share for 3 consecutive quarters. I maintain my composed expression while internally acknowledging the reason for that decline. Alchemie had revolutionized the Paris dining scene, and traditional restaurants like Le Jardin couldn't compete with nitrogen-frozen olive oil spheres and levitating chocolate soufflés. The location is prime, I responded evenly, and Chef Moreau, while currently uninspired, has fundamental talent. With the right direction, Le Jardin can be revitalized. What I didn't say was that I had written detailed instructions for Le Jardin's revival in my leather-bound notebook the previous night, flavor combinations and plating techniques that would complement rather than copy Alchemie's approach. I could save both restaurants and continue my charade a while longer. The meeting concluded with unanimous approval for the acquisition. As the boardroom emptied, I checked the messages on my phone. Most were from Gabriel, my executive chef at Alchemie and one of the few people who knew my secret. The award ceremony is in 6 weeks. They're insisting on Antoine's presence this time. No exceptions. My stomach tightened. For years, I had sent Gabriel to accept awards on Antoine's behalf, claiming the enigmatic chef was traveling, researching, or simply too focused on his craft to attend such events. But the James Beard Foundation had apparently reached its limit with the eccentric behavior of the world's most innovative chef. They're threatening to withdraw the award if Antoine doesn't appear in person, her next message clarified. I stared at my phone, the weight of 6 years of deception suddenly pressing down on me. How had I arrived at this impossible juncture? The story begins, as most complicated stories do, with my mother. Jae-yeon Park had emigrated from Korea in the 1980s, trained as a classical pianist but finding work instead cleaning houses for wealthy Manhattan families. She had sacrificed everything, her homeland, her career, her dreams, to give me opportunities she never had. Her mantra, repeated throughout my childhood, was carved into my consciousness. Security first, dreams second. I had shown culinary talent from an early age, creating intricate dishes from whatever meager ingredients were available. My mother acknowledged my skill but directed me firmly toward business school. Chefs work backbreaking hours for pitiful wages, she warned. Build a secure life first, cook for pleasure later. I complied, earning an MBA from Wharton and securing a position at a prestigious investment firm specializing in hospitality. I excelled in identifying undervalued restaurant properties and transforming them into profitable enterprises. By 30, I was heading Pinnacle's European division, with an office overlooking the Seine and a salary that had allowed my mother to retire comfortably. Security achieved, but the dream remained deferred. My breaking point came during a routine acquisition in Paris. I had been performing due diligence on a small restaurant with an unusual lease arrangement. The property included a separate service entrance and a fully equipped secondary kitchen originally intended for catering operations. It's never been used, the realtor explained as we toured the space. The previous owner had grand plans but ran out of capital. I stood in that empty kitchen, running my fingers along the pristine countertops, and felt something awaken inside me, the passion I had suppressed for years. 2 weeks later, I had purchased the property personally, creating an elaborate shell company to hide my ownership. I hired Gabrielle, a brilliant sous chef who had been overlooked for promotion because of her gender, and together we created Antoine Mercier, a fictional chef with an extraordinary vision. He'll never appear in public, I explained to Gabrielle as we developed the concept. No interviews, no photographs, no public relations. Just the food. People will speculate, she warned. Let them, I replied. Mystique is a powerful marketing tool. And it was. The absence of a visible chef became Alchemie's trademark. Diners entered through an unmarked door, were served by silent staff dressed in black, and experienced dishes that seemed to defy the laws of physics and flavor. Critics raved about the enigmatic genius behind such creations, and Antoine Mercier quickly became the most discussed chef in Europe. Meanwhile, Diana Park continued her meteoric rise through Pinnacle's corporate ranks, eventually becoming CEO. No one questioned why I spent so many evenings and weekends working. No one connected the corporate executive with the mysterious culinary visionary revolutionizing French cuisine. No one except my mother. She had come to visit me in Paris for her 70th birthday. I had arranged a special dining experience at Alchemie, eager to finally share my secret passion with her. As the intricate dishes arrived, each one I had personally designed, I watched her face transform from polite interest to dawning recognition. This is you, she said quietly, studying a deconstructed version of a Korean dish she had taught me to make as a child. These are your creations. I couldn't lie to her. In the quiet corner of the restaurant I secretly owned, I confessed everything. Her response was not what I expected. Instead of pride or even understanding, her expression filled with fear. You risk everything you've built, she said, her voice tight with concern. If Pinnacle discovers this conflict of interest, your reputation, your security. I've been careful, I assured her. The ownership is hidden through multiple layers of corporations. No one will ever know. She had shaken her head, her disappointment palpable. A life built on deception is a house made of paper, Diana. Eventually, rain will come. Those words echoed in my mind now as I stared at Gabrielle's messages. The rain had arrived. I texted back, I'll handle it. Proceed with tonight's service as planned. As my car navigated through Parisian traffic toward La Jardin for the acquisition signing, I mentally reviewed my options. I could refuse the award, maintaining Antoine's reclusive reputation. I could send Gabrielle with another excuse. I could hire an actor to play the part for one evening. Or I could tell the truth. The thought made my pulse quicken. The culinary world would be scandalized that a corporate executive had created one of the most innovative restaurants in the world, and Pinnacle's board would undoubtedly view my secret venture as a catastrophic conflict of interest. I had used my industry knowledge gained as their employee, to benefit my personal business. The car stopped in front of Le Jardin, its once grand facade now showing signs of neglect. Through the window, I could see Chef Moreau waiting inside, his expression a mixture of resentment and resignation. I was about to destroy one man's dream to protect my own deception. The realization hit me with unexpected force. What was I doing? What had I become? I instructed my driver to wait, then texted my assistant to reschedule the signing. There was somewhere else I needed to be. 30 minutes later, I walked through the employees' entrance of Alchemie, nodding to the surprised staff as I made my way to the kitchen. The dinner service was just beginning, the kitchen humming with the controlled chaos familiar to any high-end restaurant. Gabrielle looked up from the pass, her eyes widening. Diana? What are you? I need to speak with the team, I said quietly. All of them. She hesitated only briefly before calling for attention. The kitchen fell silent as 12 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Most of you know me as the owner's representative, I began, my heart pounding. What you don't know is that I am also the person who creates every dish on Alchemie's menu. I am the chef you know as Antoine Mercier. The silence deepened, expressions shifting from confusion to disbelief. I continued, my voice growing steadier. Antoine Mercier doesn't exist. He never did. I created him because I couldn't reconcile my corporate career with my passion for culinary innovation. I thought I needed to keep these worlds separate, But I was wrong. For the next few minutes, I explained everything: my dual identity, the upcoming award, the impossible choice I faced. When I finished, I expected anger or betrayal. Instead, my head pastry chef, Michael, started to laugh. "We knew something wasn't right," he said, shaking his head. The mystery chef who never appears but whose instructions are always so precise, so detailed. We had a betting pool going. Most thought Antoine was a committee, like the Daft Punk of cooking. "You're not angry?" I asked, looking around at their faces. Gabrielle stepped forward. "You gave all of us opportunities when other kitchens wouldn't. You created dishes that have made us world famous. Why would we be angry?" "Because I lied to you." "You protected yourself," she corrected. "And now?" That was the question, wasn't it? What happened now? "Now," I said slowly, "I stopped hiding." The news broke the following morning. Deanna Park, CEO of Pinnacle Hospitality Group, revealed as the culinary genius behind Alchemie. The headlines were exactly as sensational as I feared. Kuor Piore di Shark, REVALED, has Culinary ROI, revolutionary. Reistu Rahinti Moguls CDCO. W Life Exposed. Antoine Mercier, the greatest HOAX in Culinary history. My phone rang constantly. Journalists, industry colleagues, board members. I answered none of them. Instead, I went to the one place I needed to be, my mother's apartment. She opened the door wearing an apron, the scent of kimchi jjigae filling the small space. Her expression was unreadable as she gestured me inside. "I saw the news," she said simply, returning to the kitchen where she stirred the bubbling stew. "I couldn't live the lie anymore," I said, sitting at her small table. "You were right. A house made of paper can't withstand the rain." She was quiet for a long moment, tasting the stew and adjusting the seasoning. Finally, she turned to face me. "When I came to this country," she said, "I had 2 suitcases and a child to raise alone. I abandoned my music because security seemed more important than happiness." She ladled stew into 2 bowls, placing one before me. "I never wanted you to struggle as I did," she continued. "But perhaps I was wrong to make you choose between security and passion." I looked up, surprised. "You're not disappointed?" "Disappointed." She shook her head. "Deanna, you built security and followed your dream. You achieved what I could not." She reached across the table to take my hand. "I was afraid for you because fear was all I knew. But you had the courage to create something extraordinary." Tears filled my eyes as 30 years of seeking maternal approval culminated in this unexpected moment of validation. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Pinnacle will not be pleased." That was an understatement. The emergency board meeting had been scheduled for tomorrow morning. My position as CEO was almost certainly forfeit. "I don't know," I admitted. "But for the first time, I'll be making the decision as my whole self, not as half of who I am." The board meeting was exactly as difficult as I had anticipated. The directors were less concerned with my culinary moonlighting than with the blatant conflict of interest and potential legal exposure. "You use proprietary market intelligence gained at Pinnacle to benefit your personal business," the chairman stated flatly. "That's a clear violation of your fiduciary duty." I didn't argue. "I understand the position I've put you in," I said. "I've prepared my resignation, effective immediately." I slid the envelope across the table, then added something unexpected: a second document outlining a proposed partnership between Pinnacle and Alchemie. "Before you make any decisions, I'd like you to consider an alternative approach," I suggested. "Alchemie's techniques and culinary philosophy could be implemented across Pinnacle's restaurant portfolio, creating a unique market advantage." The board members exchanged skeptical glances, but Walter, my CFO, picked up the proposal. "The financials on this are compelling," he admitted after reviewing it. "Alchemie's profit margins are extraordinary, and the brand value is virtually incalculable." "Precisely," I agreed. "And Le Jardin's acquisition can proceed as planned, with a revitalized menu that complements rather than competes with Alchemie." For the next hour, we dissected the potential partnership. By the meeting's end, no final decision had been reached, but my immediate termination had been postponed pending further review. As I left Pinnacle's offices, possibly for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in years. Whatever happened next, I would face it as my complete self. 6 weeks later, I stood backstage at the James Beard Awards. adjusting the chef's jacket that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar against my skin. The traditional white coat had been customized with subtle Korean-inspired embroidery, a nod to my heritage that Antoine had never acknowledged. 5 minutes, Chef Park, a stage manager informed me. Chef Park, not Chef Mercier, not Ms. Park, CEO. Just Chef Park, the integration of both my worlds into a new identity. Gabrielle appeared at my side, resplendent in her own chef's coat. "The team is in the audience," she said. "Front row, as requested." "And my mother?" "Seated between Michael and Esther. She looks nervous but proud." I nodded, taking a deep breath. In the weeks following my revelation, much had changed. Pinnacle had ultimately decided not to pursue legal action, instead negotiating a complex partnership arrangement that allowed me to step down as CEO and assume a new role as Culinary Innovation Director across their portfolio. Le Jardin's renovation was proceeding under Gabriel's supervision, while I focused on developing new concepts that fused Alchemie's innovation with accessibility. The culinary world's reaction had been mixed. Some praised my innovation while criticizing the deception. Others viewed the entire saga as a fascinating evolution of culinary authorship. But tonight would be my first public appearance, my first time addressing the industry not as a corporate entity or a fictional chef, but as myself. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. "It is my great pleasure to present this year's award for culinary innovation to a chef whose identity was unknown until recently, but whose impact on modern cuisine is undeniable." As I walked onto the stage, the bright lights momentarily blinding me, I caught sight of my mother in the front row. Her eyes shone with tears, but her expression was one of unmistakable pride. "Thank you," I began, accepting the award with hands that had signed billion-dollar contracts and piped delicate ganache with equal precision. For many years, I believed that my passion for food and my business acumen were incompatible aspects of my identity, that I could only be successful by keeping these worlds entirely separate. I looked out at the audience, at the faces of peers who had known only Antoine or only Diana, never both. I was wrong. The same analytical thinking that made me successful in business informed my approach to deconstructing and reimagining traditional dishes. The creativity I expressed through food made me a more innovative executive. These weren't competing identities. They were complementary strengths I was afraid to integrate. In the front row, Gabrielle nodded encouragement, while my mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. "My greatest regret isn't creating Antoine Mercier," I continued. "It's that I felt I needed him at all. That I couldn't be taken seriously as both a businesswoman and a chef, that I had to choose between security and passion, between my mother's practical wisdom and my own creative voice." I held up the award, its weight substantial in my hand. "This recognition belongs not to Antoine Mercier, who never existed, but to everyone who has ever felt forced to fragment their identity to fit into the world's narrow expectations. May we all find the courage to be our complete selves." The applause that followed was thunderous, but the only approval that truly mattered was waiting for me as I exited the stage. My mother enfolded me in an embrace that smelled of home and tasted of vindication. "Both security and dreams," she whispered. "You found the secret ingredient I never could." Later that evening, as we celebrated at Alchemie, I moved to the kitchen that had once been my secret sanctuary and was now simply my workplace. The team was preparing a special tasting menu featuring dishes from throughout Antoine's career, each one now credited properly to Diana Park. My phone buzzed with a message from Walter at Pinnacle. "Board approved the expansion plan. Le Jardin reopens next month. Your culinary team starts training our corporate chefs next week." I smiled, setting the phone aside and picking up a whisk instead. Tonight there were no more secrets, no more divisions between aspects of my life. There was simply the joy of creation, the satisfaction of building something meaningful, and the peace that comes from finally bringing your whole self to everything you do. As I added a final flourish to the evening's signature dessert, a deconstructed Korean hahiok reimagined through French technique, I caught my reflection in the polished steel of the kitchen. No longer Antoine, no longer just the CEO. Simply Diana Park, chef and businesswoman, daughter and innovator, finally the author of her own undivided story.